The first answer was short. The second was defensive. By the third, Maher had stopped smiling. Meghan sat across from him with the perfect posture of someone who'd rehearsed every word. Every gesture was calibrated. Every expression was managed. She was performing a version of herself that had been workshopped and refined through countless media appearances. But Bill doesn't do rehearsed. He does real. And the gap between what Meghan was offering and what real time required became obvious within minutes. By minute 8, the audience had gone quiet. By minute 12, Bill's legendary patience had evaporated. By minute 16, he leaned back in his chair and did something he'd never done in 23 years of hosting. He looked directly at his producers and shook his head. What he said next would be replayed millions of times. What Meghan said in response made it worse. And what happened after that had never happened on Real Time before. You need to see this. The Real Time studio at Television City pulsed with its usual Friday night energy. The audience settled into their seats, anticipation crackling through the air. The band warmed up for the walk-on. Producers ran final checks. The machine that had produced hundreds of episodes of provocative political conversation gearing up for another night. Tonight's one-on-one interview had generated unusual buzz. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, her first appearance on political late-night television. The woman who had walked away from the British monarchy, who had spilled royal secrets to Oprah, who had built a new life and a new brand in California, would now face the man known for asking the questions everyone else was afraid to ask. Meghan arrived with a small entourage, publicist, assistant, someone carrying a tablet full of talking points. She walked onto the set with practiced grace, shook Bill's hand with appropriate warmth, and settled into the guest chair with deliberate precision. Everything was choreographed. Everything was controlled. Meghan, thanks for doing this. Thank you for having me. Fair warning. This isn't a friendly morning show. We ask real questions here. I'm prepared for real questions. We'll see. The cameras began rolling. So, Bill began, settling into his interview posture. You've been busy. Switzerland recently. The Lost Screen Memorial. Digital harm awareness. Tell me about that. It was deeply moving, honoring young people who've lost their lives due to online harassment and digital exploitation. The crisis is real and under-addressed. Under-addressed by whom? Tech companies, governments, parents. All of the above. We need systemic solutions. Bill tilted his head. Systemic solutions is one of those phrases that sounds impressive but could mean literally anything. What specifically are you proposing? Meghan's smile flickered. Legislation, corporate accountability, educational initiatives. Those are categories. What legislation specifically? What accountability measures? What educational programs? The details are being developed. By whom? Your foundation? Policy experts? Anyone with actual legislative experience? We work with partners who have expertise. Name one partner. One specific policy they've helped develop. Meghan paused. The pause extended uncomfortably. The work is ongoing. That's not an answer. You've positioned yourself as a digital safety advocate. Advocates should know what they're advocating for. What specific change are you pushing? Awareness is the first step. Awareness is the easiest step. It's also the step that requires no actual accomplishment. I'm aware that climate change exists. That doesn't make me an environmental advocate. What have you actually done? The audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the gentle reception Meghan had expected. The warmth that had greeted her arrival was cooling rapidly. The memorial itself was meaningful, Meghan said, attempting to regain footing. Families who've lost children. I'm sure it was meaningful to them. But meaningful isn't impact. A memorial acknowledges tragedy. It doesn't prevent future tragedy. What's the prevention mechanism? We are working with organizations. Which organizations? What's their track record? What policies have they influenced? I don't have those details memorized. You just came from Switzerland specifically for this cause. You didn't prepare to discuss specifics. Meghan's expression hardened. I prepared to discuss the emotional reality of digital harm. Emotional reality is what Oprah does. This show discusses policy. What policy are you advocating? You're being deliberately reductive. I'm being deliberately specific. There's a difference. Reductive would be dismissing your cause. I'm asking you to define it. That's the opposite of reductive. Let's try something else, Bill said. The Netflix situation. Your show didn't get renewed. The partnership ended. What happened? Business relationships evolve. Bill laughed, not warmly. That's corporate speak. What actually happened? We're taking the brand independent. Independent because you chose to? Or independent because Netflix chose for you? It was mutual. Mutual meaning both parties wanted out, or mutual meaning one party wanted out, and the other had no leverage to stop them? You're speculating about internal negotiations. I'm asking questions about publicly known outcomes. The show was canceled. The partnership ended. These are facts. I'm asking for your interpretation of facts. My interpretation is that we're moving forward. Moving forward toward what? What's the next project? Announcements will come when appropriate. That's what people say when there are no announcements coming. I've been in this business for 40 years. I know the difference between strategic timing and empty stalling. Meghan grabbed her water glass, took a sip, and set it down carefully. Her hand trembled slightly. I don't appreciate the insinuation. There's no insinuation. There's direct questioning. You came on a show known for direct questioning. What did you expect? Your foundation, Bill continued. Archwell. You've been operating for several years now. What's the signature accomplishment? We've partnered with numerous organizations. Partnerships aren't accomplishments. Partnerships are relationships. What's actually been accomplished? One concrete outcome. We've raised awareness. Awareness. Again, that's your answer for everything. Awareness of digital harm, awareness of mental health, awareness of community needs. At what point does awareness convert to achievement? Achievement takes time. Achievement takes action. You've had time. You've had resources. You've had platform. What's been built that didn't exist before? Meghan's face had gone red. You're determined to minimize our work. I'm determined to understand your work. Minimization would be dismissing it without examination. I'm examining it. The fact that examination feels that the work might not hold up to scrutiny. Confident people welcome questions. Defensive people treat questions as threats. How's Harry? Every wall in Meghan's demeanor reinforced simultaneously. I prefer not to discuss my husband. Why not? You've discussed him extensively elsewhere. Netflix, Oprah, public statements. This appearance is about my advocacy work. Your advocacy work is jointly branded with Harry. Archwell is both of you. Pretending he's separate is artificial. We have individual identities and a joint foundation, joint brand, joint public narrative. You can't separate when convenient and unify when beneficial. Pick a lane. I'm picking the lane of discussing my work. Your work is inseparable from his. That's how you've structured it. Now you want to discuss only your portion. That's not how joint ventures operate. Meghan stood up partially, then sat back down. There are rumors I refuse to dignify. I didn't ask about rumors. I asked about your husband. You introduced rumors into the conversation. That's interesting. It's not interesting. It's self-protective. Protecting against what? I asked how he is. That's friendly. Your defensive response suggests the question touched something. You're guarding the reports about your marriage. Bill pressed. Separate schedules. Growing distance. You traveling to Switzerland without him. He was with our children. He's often with the children while you travel. That's a pattern, not an exception. We share parenting responsibilities. Shared parenting usually means alternating, not one parent consistently being the home partner while the other is the public face. You're making assumptions about our domestic arrangements.
I'm observing patterns.
You traveled to Australia alone for portions of your retreat. You went to Switzerland alone. He stays home repeatedly. Either that's deliberate division of labor or it's something else. It's division of labor. Then describe it. How do you two divide responsibilities? Who handles what? Silence. The silence stretched, filled the room, became unbearable. You can't describe your own marriage's structure. That's basic information for any couple. Our structure is private. You've made your structure extremely public. Documentary, book, interviews. The privacy claim rings hollow when we've seen inside your kitchen and bedroom. Let me try a different angle, Bill said. What brings you genuine happiness right now? Not advocacy work. Personal happiness. Meghan seemed caught off guard. Personal happiness? Yes, simple joy. What do you do that makes you actually happy? A long pause. Uncomfortably long. The kind of pause that makes audiences hold their breath. I find fulfillment in purpose-driven work. Fulfillment isn't happiness. They're related, but distinct. Happiness is emotional. Fulfillment is cognitive. What makes you emotionally happy? My children. Specifically, what about them? What did they do recently that made you laugh? Another pause. Extended. The tension in the room was palpable. Those moments are private. I'm not asking for details about your children. I'm asking what makes you laugh. Every parent has dozens of funny kids' stories. You can't access one? I can access many. I'm choosing not to share. You've shared extensively about your children in other contexts. Birthdays, milestones, their names, their interests. But a simple funny story is suddenly off limits. Context matters. What context? I'm asking for something charming and human. You're treating it like I asked for classified information. Bill leaned back, his expression shifting from probing to something closer to diagnosis. You know what I noticed? I've been doing this for over 2 decades. I've talked to politicians facing indictment, celebrities mid-scandal, people whose lives were falling apart in real time. Almost all of them could find some moment of lightness, some ability to connect, some willingness to be human rather than perform humanity. Meghan remained rigid. Her posture hadn't changed in 15 minutes. She was a statue in designer clothing. What I'm experiencing tonight is different. Every question hits a wall. Every topic becomes defensive. Every attempt to find common ground gets blocked. In 23 years, I can count on one hand the guests who were this impenetrable. And all of them were hiding something significant. I'm not hiding anything. Then stop acting like you are. Every answer is a shield. Every response is managed. You're performing a character rather than being a person. I'm being exactly who I am. You're being exactly who you've decided to present. Those aren't the same thing. And the gap between them is visible to everyone watching. Let's discuss the criticism you face, Bill said. You've characterized it as racist, as misogynistic, as institutional persecution. Is any of it legitimate? Legitimate criticism exists, but it's overwhelmed by bad faith attacks. How do you distinguish between them? When someone questions your foundation's accomplishments, is that legitimate or bad faith? Depends on the motive. You can't know anyone's motive. You can only know their questions. Are questions about accomplishments inherently bad faith when they come from hostile sources? Am I a hostile source? I've asked about your advocacy, your foundation, your marriage, and your happiness. Standard interview topics. You've treated each one as an attack. Because the framing has been skeptical. Skeptical isn't hostile. Skepticism is what journalists do. If your narrative can't survive skepticism, the problem isn't the journalists. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the chair. I think we're approaching an impasse. We've been at an impasse since you sat down. You've answered almost nothing. Every topic has been blocked or deflected. I've tried soft questions. I've tried hard questions. I've tried personal questions. All roads lead to the same wall. Bill held up his hand before Meghan could respond. I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to end this interview early. Meghan looked genuinely shocked. Excuse me? This isn't working. You came here to deliver talking points. I came here to have a conversation. Those goals are incompatible. Rather than continue pretending otherwise, I'm calling it. You can't just end an interview. I can absolutely end an interview on my own show. I've never done it before, but I've also never had a guest this committed to non-engagement. I've been engaging. You've been deflecting. There's a difference. Engagement means actually answering questions. Deflection means appearing to answer while providing nothing. You've done the latter exclusively. Meghan stood up. This is unprofessional. What's unprofessional is coming on a show known for substantive conversation and refusing to converse substantively. You want credit for appearing without doing the work of appearing. I came here to discuss digital safety, and I asked you about it. You couldn't name a single policy you support. Couldn't identify one partner you work with. Couldn't describe any concrete accomplishment. That's not discussing. That's evading. Because you weren't genuinely interested. I was deeply interested. That's why I kept asking. Genuine interest looks like follow-up questions. You experienced follow-up questions as attacks because you couldn't handle scrutiny. Meghan moved toward the exit. History will vindicate me. Bill shook his head. History judges on evidence. Right now, the evidence is an unfinished interview because you couldn't handle basic questions from a late-night host. That's not a vindication trajectory. You don't understand what I face. I understand what you show. And what you show is someone who can't function without controlled environments and approved questions. Real-time doesn't offer either. That's why it's called real-time, not managed time. Meghan left. The studio door closed behind her. Bill turned to face the camera, his expression mixing frustration and something approaching bewilderment. Well, that just happened. First time in 23 years I've ended an interview mid-segment. He shook his head slowly. I want to explain what just occurred. I asked about her digital safety work. She couldn't name specific policies. I asked about her foundation. She couldn't identify accomplishments. I asked about her marriage. She shut down entirely. I asked what makes her happy. She couldn't answer. Bill spread his hands. These aren't hostile questions. They're basic human questions. Every guest I've ever had could engage with them at some level. She couldn't engage with any of them. He leaned forward. Here's what concerns me. Meghan Markle has positioned herself as a truth-teller. Someone who challenges institutions. Who speaks authentically. But when challenged herself even gently, she crumbles. She can't name what her foundation does. She can't describe her own happiness. She can't discuss her marriage beyond saying it's private after making it extremely public for profit. Bill addressed the camera directly. Meghan, if you're watching, I wasn't your enemy tonight. I was an interviewer. The difference matters. Enemies want to destroy. Interviewers want to understand. I tried to understand your advocacy. You gave me nothing. I tried to understand your work. You deflected. I tried to understand you as a person. You blocked every entry point. He paused. That's not my failure. That's yours. And until you recognize it, until you can engage with genuine curiosity rather than treating it as attack, every interview is going to feel like what happened here tonight. Bill looked at his producers. We're going to go to panel early because there's no more interview to conduct. He turned back to camera. When we come back, we'll discuss what just happened with our panel. And we'll do something Meghan apparently couldn't. We'll have an actual conversation. The footage aired that Friday night. HBO made no edits. The clips that spread captured the collapse in real time. Awareness is the easiest step. It's also the step that requires no actual accomplishment. Confident people welcome questions. Defensive people treat questions as threats. You're performing a character rather than being a person. I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to end this interview early. Real time doesn't offer controlled environments. That's why it's called real time, not managed time. Meghan's team released a statement calling the appearance a predetermined ambush by a host with a documented history of controversial opinions. Bill addressed it during the following week's monologue. Predetermined? I asked about her work, her foundation, her happiness. The most basic questions I could think of. She couldn't answer any of them. That's not ambush. That's accountability. And if accountability feels like ambush, maybe examine what you're hiding. The audience applauded. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've interviewed presidents, dictators, controversial figures of every kind. Almost all of them could engage in actual dialogue. She couldn't, and the statement calling me hostile proves my point. She can't distinguish between hostility and curiosity. Anyone who doesn't accept her narrative becomes the enemy. He shrugged. That's not my problem. That's hers. And it's going to keep being hers until she figures out how to be a person instead of a press release. For Bill Maher, the aborted interview became an unexpected first. Proof that after 23 years, something could still surprise him on his own show. A testament to his commitment to genuine conversation, and a warning about what happens when celebrity protection becomes a fortress. For Meghan Markle, it was catastrophic. She'd walked into real time expecting the softball questions she'd demanded and encountered something her handlers couldn't prepare her for. Genuine skepticism delivered without malice. But for the millions who watched, something else emerged. The contrast between what advocacy should look like, specific, accomplished, defensible, and what Meghan offered, vague, aspirational, evasive, became impossible to ignore. Bill had asked what she'd actually done. She couldn't tell him. And in that inability, in that endless deflection, in that final walk to the door, everything anyone needed to know about the gap between Meghan's brand and Meghan's substance became visible. Some interviews reveal expertise. Others expose its absence. This one proved that awareness without accomplishment is just noise dressed up as virtue. 23 years of real time. First interview ever cut short. What does that tell you? When someone can't name what they've done, can't describe what they're building, can't access simple happiness, can't discuss their own marriage without walls going up, what are they actually protecting? Bill offered curiosity. Meghan offered deflection. Bill asked for specifics. Meghan gave vagueness. Bill wanted conversation. Meghan delivered performance. And in the end, the host who had seen everything did something he'd never done before. He ended it. Because there was nothing there to continue. Some interviews reveal the truth. Others reveal the absence of it. If you want more content that asks the real questions, subscribe. This is where the real conversations happen. Leave a like. Share this with someone. They need to see what really happened. More truth. More accountability. More of what everyone else is afraid to ask. Stay with us.